Hi, it's Nick here from the Talkin' Power podcast. We are proud to announce AutoOne as our brand partner for the podcast. AutoOne, it's the one. You can now order online with click and collect or get your order shipped. Head to www.autoone.com.au. Like us at the podcast, AutoOne has a passion for cars and all things automotive. They understand your love of cars too. With great prices and the biggest brands you know and trust, they are sure to be able to help you with your project, whether it be replacing your wiper blades, fitting out your four-wheel drive with the latest gear, or rebuilding your dad's old HQ Holden. Not sure on how to install those spotlights? Don't panic. Just head to the website and click on the do-it-yourself videos and Rico will talk you through the process. From AutoOne in Albany up to AutoOne in Karratha, across to AutoOne in Townsville, down to AutoOne in Hobart, and over 50 stores in between. AutoOne has a retail store nearby with expert advice and the stock on hand. AutoOne is committed to bringing you the brands you know and trust at great prices. Coupled with the team's knowledge and experience, AutoOne, it's the one.
Talkin' Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkinpower.com.au.
Okay, welcome to episode 92 of the Talkin' Power podcast. And on this podcast, I am privileged to have with us, all the way from Sydney, Australia, Emma Begley from the Let's Boogie, the Aeroflow, Outlaw, Nitro Funny Car show. Thanks for joining us, Emma.
No, thank you for having me. It's good to come on and share my passion on podcasts and things like this, so it's great.
Look, it's a real pleasure having you here, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck right into this. Now, just before we start, I'm going to ask you a question kind of without notice. Your dad actually holds the record for the most downloads in 2019. So how do you think you'll go against him in 2020?
Look, Dad and I are very competitive, so let's just say I hope to hopefully beat his download record. He
really astounded us that year. I mean, to be fair to you, actually, he got a head start. We did his interview in February of 2019, so you're sort of coming in August. So, but anyway, we'll keep you posted on the figures anyway. So, we're really looking forward to it. Look, before we get too far into it, we just need to make another announcement. Congratulations to Alex Dombrowski. He wins the AutoOne $50 gift card. So, if you're listening to this podcast, episode 92. Like, comment, and share the episode 92 podcast with Emma Begley, and you go in the running to win a $50 gift card from our sponsors at AutoOne. So thanks to the team at AutoOne. They've been really supportive, and like, comment, share on Facebook this episode 92 with Emma Begley, and you go in the running to win that. All right, Emma, let's get stuck into it. Inherently, your family is from drag racing. You come from a drag racing family. I have to ask, I think a lot of people would like to grow up in that environment, but tell us, inherently, did that have pressures with it as well?
Look, growing up in a family of drag racers, obviously, as you've said before, you've had my dad on the podcast as well, and I'm sure you've heard all these crazy, wild drag racing stories.
Yes.
I grew up listening to them every night at our dinner table and things like that. So it was something that I guess I was already into from such a young age, and it was a big passion for me. It definitely did bring some pressures along the way. I always wanted to be a drag racer from such a young age, and at the start, Dad wasn't too sure. He was a little bit hesitant to let me get in a Junior Dragster, and it took me years and years of begging him and showing him different Junior Dragsters for him to actually let me get in one. And from there, obviously moving on to Super Street and then stepping into the funny car. Look, there's definitely a pressure to do my dad proud, I think. But I can say Dad's never put the pressure on me. He's always said to do what I'm comfortable with and what I want to do, and he will always support that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I know your father quite well, and I know, I would assume your mother wouldn't put that pressure on you as well. But I think a lot of people would get caught up in the thinking that, it'd be just basically a gift to get into one of these things. And I don't think it's that simple. And I think it inherently has pressures that probably myself and other people would not be aware of. So, I'm always mindful of one of the questions I like asking, especially when we have children that are growing up in drag racing families, do they feel that pressure to step into that sport?
Look, to be honest, I think I'm probably my biggest critic. I probably put the most pressure on myself to do my family proud and my dad proud, especially being, he is quite talented behind the wheel of a drag car, and I've grown up watching that. So if anything, it's more the pressure I put on myself to hopefully be as good as him one day. Yeah,
no, most certainly. So look, I mean, you talked about the Junior Dragster there. You mentioned that back in those days, I know there was a nickname going around, Stomper. Tell us how that nickname came to be.
Look, that's actually quite a funny story. I started Junior Dragsters when I was 11, and as I mentioned before, it took me years and years to convince Dad to let me get in the car. Me and my brother grew up with motorbikes and go-karts and things like that we always would ride around our acreage. But the Junior Dragster was definitely the next step for me. Stomper came about because on my very first licensing pass, Dad had talked me through it, told me what I had to do, that I was just to do a launch and to get off of it, and to just sort of idle down the track, not keep my foot flat to the floor. And young 11-year-old Emma, obviously that went in one ear and out the other. Yeah. And I just decided to step on it and go the whole way. First ever time in a race car, first ever time in a Junior Dragster. And I think it was more the excitement of, I've always watched my dad race cars, and I just wanted to get out there and do it, and I didn't understand why I had to just do a launch. But those commentators, obviously at the time at the Perth Motorplex, decided to name me Stomper, and it's sort of stuck ever since.
I guess we can attribute, probably would be Benny Bishop or maybe even J Mac as well. I'd have to look back and ask one of those guys when I next see him. You just spoke about your dad again there. So tell us a little bit. Your dad has done, when we spoke with him, we came up with a list of all the categories he's raced in. And I didn't make a note of it, but I know definitely we raced against him in Super Street back in the day. And I do remember him in sedan, certainly door slammer, certainly funny car, and everything in between. Did you, I think, like his experiences, did that like define for you, did that give you a direct route to exactly where you want to be?
Look, to be honest, yes and no. I think his passion that he has for the sport is something that drove me. But also watching him, things, for example, like the Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Car series. It's awesome. The atmosphere is awesome. All the guys and girls that are involved behind the scenes, the drivers, the crew, everyone. It's like a big family gathering when you all get together. And I think it was more the atmosphere and the people I race with that draw me to a class. I raced Super Street too, and I loved it. Everyone was friendly. Everyone had their, their rivalries, but it was still a happy atmosphere, and you were all there to, share your passion and do what you wanted to do, and that was drag racing. So I think although watching Dad go through the classes and race the different cars, I definitely had my favorites. I loved the door slammer, loved the alcohol car, but certainly the Nitro Funny Cars were where it's at for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, going on from there, basically you've gone from the Junior Dragster into your dad's HZ Ute, I remember. And then you step straight into Groovin. Now, Groovin, just to explain that to our listeners, that was your family's Nitro Funny Car. Is that correct?
Yes. privateer car.
Yeah, yep. So tell us what that was like. I remember your licensing in that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Look, from a really young age, from 15 years old, I said to Benny Bish actually, and my parents at one of the Aeroflow events, one day I'm going to get in one of these cars and I'm going to race it. And look, it's a little bit of a funny story. The reason we put Groovin together, and it was a bit of a project for Dad and I, was he promised me that if I got my grades up at school and got into university and started my nursing degree, that he would do whatever he can to help me get in one of those cars. And it was a project that we had been doing since I was about 16, 17. So the moment I hit 18 and the car was ready to go, I was definitely ready. And I think Dad was ready as well.
Well, you mentioned a good point there. You talked about studying. You're actually studying to be a nurse as we speak. So tell us, how do you fit all that in? I mean, pre-COVID, you were studying to be a nurse and you're also doing the full-time Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Car deal, which takes you right across Australia and New Zealand. How do you fit all that in?
With great difficulty. No. Look, studying, I went straight from school to university. So it was something I was used to doing. Drag racing is sort of the moment I get to let my hair down, and it gets me through each semester and through each year, I should say. It's something I really, really look forward to. So it's a break away from my studies and away from my everyday job and things like that. So look, like anything, the things I enjoy and the things I find important and the things that hold, are something I really, really love, I find ways to do everything. I'm one of these people that if I want to do it, I'll definitely go out and get it done, do what I want.
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate that. But I think a lot of our people, a lot of our listeners listening would like to know like how they manage their time. And I think what you're doing is an amazing to study nursing. That's not simple. And to do what you do the full time and to the Outlaw Nitro Funny Car gig is a big gig. While we're talking about the Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Car deal, we probably need to explain to the uninitiated exactly what that is. So I've got here some pictures for our listeners so they can see that. So there's a number of cars here. But for the uninitiated, just explain to them, that's Chelsea there. And then, of course, we got, how can we forget? That's Boogie there. So just explain to our listeners, what is the Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Car show?
Look, it's easy, but it's tricky to explain. The whole point of the Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Car series is obviously Graham and Wendy Cowin have a passion for these cars, and they turned their passion into one of the most amazing series in drag racing. It's not only an enjoyment for us as drivers and crew to put on a show, but we get enjoyment out of seeing supporters, not only dads, but kids and mums coming down and getting involved, being part of our pit party, getting chances to sit in the cars, meet the drivers, talk to the crews. As you showed before, your hero cards, they get them signed and things like that. I think that's what makes our series really special, is it's really family based and it's about putting on a show for our supporters. That's important as drag racers. Yes, we love the thrill of getting in a fast car and winning races and things like that. But without our supporters, it wouldn't make it as special as it is.
I want to share with you right now, just as we'll share this here. This is some photo. These are some of my photos actually that I took. This was from a couple of years ago, and that's my little son there. And this is some of. So for our viewers that are actually watching us on YouTube, you can see these photos here. But that's typically that. This is in the pit party, and actually that's that rod there. That was actually J-Mac gave me that. You can see right there. So that's the kind of thing that we expect to see in the pit party, where basically the pit party, it's set up in a U manner, I guess you would say, where all the cars are parked or serviced in a way that is conducive to allow spectators and people to gather around. Isn't that correct?
Well, that's exactly right. We want it to be welcoming. We want people to know that they can come in and get close and have a look behind the scenes. It's one thing to see what us as drivers and our crew do when we're out on the track, but it's another to come behind the scenes and see the hard work that all the crew put in to get those cars turned around and back out on track on time.
The other image I want to share with you as well is this was the first pass from a couple of years ago, and it's an image of Chelsea versus Tango. I'm not sure which Tango that was, but I know Senior Sergeant Mike Pearson was behind the wheel, and that was to celebrate 30 years in the police force. But for those watching on the YouTube channel, that crowd, I think the picture is more about the crowd. For me, it's more about the crowd than it is the cars, but I think the cars are symbolic as well. But these are the sort of crowds that we're looking at. And that is capacity crowd. I think the Motorplex reached a capacity crowd that day. So, I mean, for those watching, you get to feel, I'll actually post that on YouTube, on Facebook as well, so people can see. But just explain, like, we get thousands and thousands of people to these events, don't we?
Oh, it is huge. It absolutely blows me away every time we go to Perth. I actually had a friend a couple of years ago who told me that they waited 2.5 hours in the queue just to get tickets, just to get inside the door. And to think that I'm a part of something like that, a big series like that has such an impact on people, and it's an enjoyment and it's an entertainment for them, is really exciting. We're in drag racing, I'm sure we all know, we struggle to compare with the crowds, say, in America and things like that. So to see that the Perth Motorplex can put on such an amazing event with Graham and Wendy Cowin, every year when I see Perth come up on the calendar, I always get excited.
Yeah, look, I mean, and I think, that sentiment flows through to the fans as well. I think a lot of people talk to me that aren't in a drag racing scenario or don't know very little about drag racing, still come to that event, not because of drag racing, it's because of the show. And I think we've spoke to a number of drag racers in the podcast, and I always ask them, where does the sport need to go from here? And a lot of them say to me, we need to start replicating what Wendy and Graham Cowin are doing over here with the Aeroflow deal. So you'd agree with that as well, I would assume.
Definitely. I think every class is different and independent in its own way. But what Graham and Wendy Cowin have done with the series and the places it's gone and the people it's reached is definitely something to aspire to on everyone's behalf, Yeah. Their passion for it has really helped it grow to be what it is today.
Mm. Now, unfortunately, in 2020, you weren't able to get here because of, when 2020 is finished, we'll remember this year for a lot of reasons. But we've probably forgotten a lot about the fires that started off the year, and the air highway was blocked. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you were with Dad in the truck, weren't you?
I definitely was. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. And I know. I spoke with your dad only a few weeks prior to that, and he said he was doing the trip over. He was flying over, picking you up, getting in the truck, and driving it back. As it turned out, you guys got stuck at a Roadhouse. But tell us a bit about that, because I think even though you didn't get to Perth, I think the fans you made from what you did at the Roadhouse was probably tenfold. And I think a lot of people, we shared that video of Chelsea's car, the sheriff. I don't think she was driving. I'm not sure who it was, but doing a couple of wheel stands in the car park at the Roadhouse. Tell us a bit about that.
Look, again, it all comes down to what's important to us. Although we couldn't make it to Perth and we were all devastated, we were looking forward to getting there and meeting the fans and having another amazing event, as we always do in Perth. It was really good to enlighten people on our passion and what we do, maybe that wouldn't get to experience it all the time, or they're say from overseas. I think we met some Danes that we ended up spending a couple of days with, and some families that lived out on country out that way, on land out that way. So normally, you know, they don't find themselves going into Perth and things like that for events like ours. But I think it showed them, how do I explain it? I think it gave them an insight into what we do. And I know all of them said that they would buy tickets, and a couple of them were hoping if we had got through to follow us down to Perth and to get to, you know, come and watch this series. And unfortunately that didn't happen. But it was just really nice to bring something to the people. It was devastating, obviously, that what was happening with the fires, people weren't able to get home. There was a young boy there who actually needed to get to the hospital and get some medications and things like that. So it was a hard time for a lot of people, and the fact that we could bring smiles to their faces and share our passion in the middle of what felt like nowhere was a really, really amazing experience.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, go to our Facebook page. We shared it back in January of this year, but I might re-share it actually. So there was some video of the sheriff coming out of the truck and doing a couple of wheel stands in the car park of a Roadhouse. But the crowd that you drew there was phenomenal. But I think just more onto that point was the social media reach that video got. Well, I don't think you can measure that. I don't think there's any metrics to that. And I think when you do get back to Perth, a lot of people will remember that. Not just the people that were there, but the people that saw what you did just to lift the spirits of those that were stuck out there. So I take my hat off to whoever was involved in that. Who was driving, actually? I didn't find out.
I'm going to dob him in.
Okay.
No, I didn't. There was a couple of us there. You, obviously, my dad, myself, Shane Olive, my partner Shane actually, and Brandon as well, who also drives King Kong. So there was a couple of us there all standing around and watching. But yeah, Shane was definitely the one behind the wheel.
Oh well, not. I'm sure the local law enforcement will be. We've passed the statutory limits on that one. The AutoOne customer loyalty program, the AutoOne Club, has been designed to provide privileges to loyal customers. Head on over to www.auto1.com.au and click on the club membership tab, or alternatively head into your local AutoOne store and ask about the benefits that come with being a loyal AutoOne Club member. While you're in the store, be sure to check out AutoOne's extensive range of Impact Automotive garage tools, floor mats and coolant. The Impact Automotive range offers quality products at affordable prices. From a 3-ton heavy-duty trolley jack to an adjustable mechanic seat, the Impact Automotive range has a garage tool that'll suit your needs. The range has also well over 20 different types of floor and boot mats to suit your ride. They come in rubber or fabric with a PVC backing to stop slipping. Also in the range is an extensive choice of coolant. Whether it be pre-mixed or concentrate, the long life range of red and green Impact Automotive coolant is bound to have a product that suits your needs. To view the full range of Impact Automotive products, head on over to www.auto1.com.au or visit one of their stores. AutoOne is committed to bringing you the brands you know and trust at great prices. Coupled with their team's knowledge and experience, AutoOne, it's the one. One of the questions I always ask, or I've asked in the past, Kelly Betts, I've asked Phil Lamartina, I like to ask I call Nitro guests, I've asked your dad as well, I think, but take us through step from the moment, so the body's up, they start the car up, talk us through from that point onwards exactly what you go through.
Look, there's definitely a lot going through my head, as well as a lot of things that I've got to remember. I have a fantastic crew. I have Brady Pilkington, who's also a Perth boy.
Yep.
He's crewed with me since the start, since Groovin. So obviously, prior to that car starting, he is my main focus. Everything he tells me to do, I'm watching him like a hawk most of the time. So look, obviously the body's up, the car gets fired, the body comes down, and I'm just waiting for Brody's signal to call me through the water. Emotionally, there's a lot of things going on. I will admit I get quite nervous coming into events, and especially into that first round. But I think it's one of those things that once that car's started and you feel the rumbles and, you know what you've got to do. You've got to get from A to B as quick as possibly, and hopefully beat the guy next to you in the lane. So I think a bit of that, your job kicks in, like that's what you've got to do. Yeah. Obviously, coming through the water, Brody will give me the signal, and I'll plant my foot to the floor and hold on. Yeah. Coming back all the way, obviously reversing and things like that, but coming into stage, pre-stage and then stage, again, it's one of those things that you're really eager to get to the end of the track and beat the guy next to you and obviously get the fastest time possible. So look, I have a little bit of a routine that I do. I call it 1, 2, 3. Yep. 1 is obviously pull my visor down. 2 is pull the fuel all the way on. And 3 is lift my foot off the clutch. And I think having that routine also calms me a little bit as well, because I know that that's 1, 2, and 3. And if you see inside my car, next time you see me at Perth Motorplex, you'll actually see there's a big 1, 2, and 3 right in front of my face, so I can't miss it. Yeah. Obviously, then waiting for those, as soon as I see that amber, my foot is straight to the floor, and I hold on for dear life now. It's one of those things that goes so quickly, and it's really, really, I find it really challenging to explain. I think it's a feeling that you don't know until you do it, I suppose. Especially when I first started out, I remember Dad used to sit there and try to explain it to me, and I'd ask him what I'm going to feel and what I'm going to do, and you don't know what the car or the track or anything's going to throw at you. I don't know if anyone had seen the footage from Spring Mount, my first race against Messinio. We had done a burnout. I was ready for the race. I was hoping to win the race. And all of a sudden, the car was going left, right, and I saw Messinio come up next to me, and, it was a point where we nearly collided. So as a driver, you don't really know what to expect or what's going to happen. It's just about doing what you feel comfortable with and being behind the wheel. You know what the car's going to do. You know what the car's telling you. So from there, you make adjustments and you make movements, and that's your job as a driver.
Phil Lamartino once said on this podcast, he said, as a driver, you have the best seat in the house and the worst seat in the house. And when I asked him to explain that, he said, as you're sitting inside the car, arguably it's the best seat in the house. But in the crowd, he would also argue that watching a nitro car go down the track, and I've done it many times, and I know exactly what he's saying, but I've never sat in the seat of one. But even down track, or it doesn't really matter where you are, it's a whole new sensation to the body, isn't it? Like the shock wave that goes through your body, and the sight and the sound of the car as it makes its way down the track. It's a whole new feeling. But as a driver, you don't really, it's all happening right there in front of you, but you don't feel that shock wave or the sensation, or you actually can feel, if you're close enough to the front, you can actually feel the heat wave come off the car as well as it's going past.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a feeling like no other. And as I mentioned before, it's such a hard thing to explain. I still to this day, I'll get out the car at the end and I'll unstrap myself and jump out the top, and I'll be gasping for air. And I reckon I must hold my breath from start to finish, because on the end of the track, you're trying to get all the oxygen and all the air in you can. Yeah. So it's definitely, and it's one of those things that happens so quickly, and you just have to think on your feet and, adjust to the track and adjust to the car. And, as I said, as the driver being behind the wheel, you've got to know what's going on and what the car's doing.
Yeah. How often do you glance left or right just to see where your opponent is or where dad is? How often do you just have a look there? Is it? It must be hard not to look.
Look, it's one of those things that I think you probably do have a sneaky look as a driver, but you don't register it.
Yeah.
You're just your focus is on that finish line of beating dad.
Yeah.
In the lane next to me.
No, I've often wondered that as well. Like, how often would you look left and right and, just wonder where your opponent's at? Because even though we call this a show and everyone calls it a show, the racing's still very competitive, isn't it, amongst all of you, isn't it?
It definitely is. Look, we're all mates, and as I said before, we're like a big family. But as soon as those helmets go on and those cars fire up, it's the rivalry that kicks in.
Yeah.
You always want to beat the best. You always want to beat the top. Obviously, everyone knows Rick Gorsey, Shane Olive, Morris, all those drivers, Walshy, Massinio, they're all competitive. There's not one car in there that is better than the other. So you just don't know who could win. It comes down to really the driver, the car, the track, and all the other elements as to who's going to win the race.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because I can see a lot of people, as I said, may call it a show, but I see that there's a competitive spirit amongst all of you. And even when the cars are going down the track, someone might get out of the groove a little bit and try and get back to the groove as soon as possible and get back on the noise, which you arguably probably shouldn't do in a Nitro Funny Car. But I see it many times. The lights go out, but the candles come back on again and away. So there is a competitive spirit there. I'm convinced of it. So I'm glad you admitted that.
It definitely is. I'll back you on that one.
Well, you mentioned before, Graham. We've spoken Graham and Wendy Cowin, and this is partly it is their show. How much influence do they have in your style of driving or the tune-up, or do they leave that entirely up to you?
Personally for me, being GC and Wendy's only female driver, I try to get as much information and as much help out of them as possible. I am really engaged. GC and Wendy have been around it for a very long time, and they definitely know what they're talking about. Yeah. We've recently actually just moved back to under the yellow trucks trailer. So we're right there next to Shane Olive and Rick Gorsey. And it's one of those things on race day, you try to absorb as much knowledge as you can. Every event I go to and every event I attend, I learn something new, whether that's from me, a personal experience inside the car, or from something Shane Olive or Graham have told me, or Rick Gorsey have told me. They, for me, have a huge impact on the way I drive. In regards to the car, the last couple of events, GC has been helping Brody and I out and the rest of the crew out and giving us some ideas, but still ensuring that we're thinking about it and we're using our heads. So he may give us two options and say, okay, now you choose what you think is going to help the car to get it from A to B as quick as possible. So look, as anything, they are a huge part of the series, and they always have a massive impact on the way I drive and all the cars, really. But at the end of the day, it's about us making them proud and us, how do I explain it, sharing their passion with our fans, our supporters and things like that.
Yeah, I should probably take a step back, and for our listeners that aren't aware of Graham Cowin and Wendy Cowin, I mean, to put it in a sentence, they are drag racing royalty in Australia. Really, that's the easiest way to put it. They are simply royalty when it comes to the quarter mile, and I put them up in such, up there in the top tier of drag racing, and they've done it all. Like Graham's competed in the US and runs a successful business here as a vendor of a number of automotive parts and supplies, and also is the man behind this show. So for our listeners not new to our podcast or new to this episode, that's who Graham Cowin and Wendy Cowin are. They have could be wrong here, but 2 sons from memory. I can't remember their names now, but they've both competed in Top Fuel as well, and they've competed in all around the world. And we're very proud that they are Australian and they put this show on in Australia. I'm going to ask you a sneaky question here. We talked about Dad before. So what's it like beating him? Tell us what that was like.
Oh, honestly, that was, I can't even explain it. That was the best feeling in the world. As I said, obviously growing up watching my dad racing, wanting to be in his shoes, you know, be behind the cars that he was behind, to then get the opportunity to race against him was really special. And I remember our first ever race. It was kind of a bit of a reality check, you know. Yeah. You grow up all these years hoping to be there and hoping to achieve that and line up against him. So to actually be there, it was an achievement in itself, you know. But then to finally beat him, I think it was our 4th race against each other. Yep. He had 3 wins over me. And prior to New Zealand, we had actually gone on a bit of a family holiday and we were competitive the whole time. In the end, my mum was like, you two stop. You know, we wanted to beat each other at everything. And I think it was a bit of getting in each other's heads and trying to wind each other up. So look, coming into that event, obviously we knew we had each other. And I really, really wanted to win that race. And I gave that race my 110%. I don't know if you've watched it. He tells me that I messed him around on the lights a little bit because I went straight into stage and that's his excuse.
Okay.
But look, one thing Dad has always ever told me, even since racing juniors, is pick a point at the bottom of the track, at the end of the track, and do not take your eyes off it. And imagine you are just running at it as hard as you can. And I think that got in my head, especially in that New Zealand race. I picked a point and my eyes did not move from that point in the track, and I knew I wanted to get there first. So obviously when I got out the end of the track and my mum and my family, my brother's girlfriend, everyone was over there, was screaming and honking the horn. And I hadn't seen Dad. Obviously, once I'd pulled the chutes, I had a good feeling that I had won the race. And yeah, it was definitely an experience I cannot explain. It was amazing.
Now, did you beat him on a 50? Was it a 550 you ran that you beat him on?
560.
Oh, 60. Yeah, well, that's 60s. Yeah, that's pretty. When you can beat Dad on a 60, that's pretty good. That is pretty awesome. You just spoke about your family there. You got a younger brother, Connor, as well. That's looking at. When I spoke with your dad a couple of weeks ago, he's talking about getting into a radio deal, and your mum Jane as well. Obviously, great support to what you do as well. Not just your dad, but even your brother and your mum as well.
They have all been a massive support. My little brother's licensed in his radial car, and he absolutely loves it. Honestly, I always tell Dad, if he ever gets into a nitro car, I reckon Dad and I need to watch out.
Yeah.
Because out of all of us, he's the competitive one. But no, my mum's always been a huge support. My partner Shane, he actually works for Graham and Wendy Cowin on the race cars. They're all a huge support and they help me so much on race day and in everyday day life. They push me to do all the things I want to do, and they support me in every step and in every way.
Yeah, no, Mose, great family. Look, we had Kelly Betts on here probably almost 2 years ago now, and in my mind, she cemented the legacy for the work that Rochelle Splatt has done in the 80s and 90s, and Kelly's come along and really cemented that. My question to you, basically, what message do you have to females that are watching the sport, or younger females? What's your message to them, and like basically, how do we get them into the sport?
Well, my message is always follow your heart. I think that it's one of those things, no matter what you've got going on in life, or if someone tells you can't do it, if you want to do it, you will achieve it. Hard work, dedication, passion, all those things are what drives me to do what I do. And that's all I can say to others is, if you want to do it, go out there and get it and go do it.
Yeah, because look, I mean, on the screen now, I'll show like some of the autographs you do and some of the work you do, and like, I mean, this is a perfect example. This is only just an example of some of the stuff that you do, and on the screen, people see the autographs and the crowds of people. But I mean, that's I guess that's my question to you is like, yeah, I think you're very. I think you got a great influence on young, not just, I shouldn't say just females. I think even young boys as well. My 11-year-old son's a big fan of you, and he's too shy to come in here and come on the camera actually. But yeah, he's a big fan of yourself and your dad. And I think the message, I think that's a great message for young people, and I really like seeing young people at the track, and especially at these events where we have lots of young kids there. I think it's really great.
That's a huge part of it as well is, you know, I am always open. If people want to come and hang out and see what we do, I am more than happy to have young kids or anyone for that matter come out and hang out for the day and experience what it's like to do fuel and oil and things like that. You know, people like Rod Bailey and things like that, if it wasn't for them, Dad wouldn't have got where he is today. And if it wasn't for my dad and people like Graham and Wendy Cowin, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm a huge believer. If I can ever help anyone to get into the sport, or if they just want to find a way to be involved, please, I'd be more than happy to help out, because I know that if it wasn't for people giving a chance on me, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think that's a great message there. Emma, before we finish, I've got one more question for you. Where to from here? I know this is probably a tough year to give an answer to 2020. Well, let's just forget 2020, but let's look into, I guess we could say, into the next 5 years. Where do you see yourself going?
Look, to be honest, it's really funny because from such a young age, racing for Graham and Wendy Cowin in this series has been such a big passion and a big dream of mine. And to reach that at a young age and racing for them at the age of 19, I was able to reach those goals really early. So look, I would find my next, hopefully, goal would be to definitely win a Rocket Trophy, or at least place on the podium.
Yep.
But look, from there, like any drag racer, you know, you want to follow your passion, you want to follow your dreams. I would always love to go and race in America or help out on a car in America. There's plenty of people that I look up to, such as TJ, and you look at the amazing things that they're doing over there. But for now, I think I want to focus on definitely winning my Rocket Trophy and seeing where I can go with the Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Car series. Yeah.
TJ, you refer to as Tommy Johnson? Tommy Johnson. You have a good relationship with Tommy Johnson Jr., correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, look, when TJ started coming over here and racing a couple of years ago, he even raced in the series as well.
That's right, I remember that, yep.
Yeah. We've had a good relationship with them since. You know, when Dad went over and raced in America, it was awesome to be able to watch him race as well. And whenever he comes over and here, we always hang out. He's a huge influencer, you know, what he does is amazing. He's awesome behind the wheel of a car. And it's really exciting to see, like, he'll always give me feedback and tell me. He actually come over for a Perth event a couple of years ago, and he gave me his honest opinion on how he thought I went. And I appreciate things like that and constructive feedback. So hearing that from him and taking that on board was awesome.
Yeah, it was his honeymoon, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
I thought so.
They definitely enjoyed spending that down in Dunsborough in Perth. They loved it, going to all the wineries.
I'm sure they did. Hey, Emma, look, we really appreciate your time on coming on the podcast tonight. I know it's late over there, so we'll wind this up. Now, where can we find information about yourself? Is that at www.facebook.com, Groovin, AONFC, is that correct?
Yep, or you can just search Emma Begley Drag Racing.
Yeah, That works as well, yep. And then also, if we want to find information on the Aeroflow on Facebook, it's Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Cars, or you can head to their website. Great website, I must say. Very good website. www.outlawnitrofunnycars.com.au. Head there as well. And I'd also like to thank, and also a plug to www.aeroflowperformance.com, and also Morris as well for allowing us. He's given us a number of images to use in this podcast as well. So I really, really appreciate that. And the team at Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro Funny Cars, go to their website. Once this virus is completed with, I'm sure the guys will be back racing, and hopefully we see you here in January in Perth. Fingers crossed that event still goes ahead. If not, I'm sure it will be up and running no time soon in any event.
We look forward to it.
Okay, Emma, look, really appreciate that, and thanks for your time and coming on. I know it's hard to make time for these sorts of things, so we really appreciate it, and thanks once again.
No, I've enjoyed being coming on and sharing all my passion for this series.
And we'll keep you posted on how the downloads go. There's another race on.
Yes, please do. Have a good.
Okay, Emma, you take care and all the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.